as everyone were expecting, right?
Yep.
So 8:18, we'll call the meeting to order. Everyone were expecting, right?
Yep.
All set?
Yep.
All right. So we'll start with the reading of our mission statement. Lewis County Economic Development, through its board, the IDA, and its brand, Naturally Lewis, are championing the growth of a community where people want to live, work, build business, and play. We foster forward thinking and relationship building, connecting people, businesses, partnerships, and resources to effectively and efficiently grow our county. Are we?
Jenna, you're like a magician on that thing.
All right. Get the technology settled here. All right, are we?
Yeah,
Starting
wanted
with-
to introduce and reintroduce our summer interns. We have Kaylee Taball, who is back for second summer as our marketing and communications intern. She'll be a senior this coming year at St. Rose, graduating with
Bachelor's in marketing and my MBA.
and MBA. She's doing a great job. I think we talked a few meetings ago that she's pretty much taken over our social media and has been doing great content work on our website. I'm gonna have her start dabbling in some grant applications this summer. She's an excellent writer. Really happy to have her back. She's been very helpful throughout this past spring and summer already. And then we have Aiden Zaire. Aiden is going to be a sophomore and is transferring to SUNY Potsdam, majoring in finance and business, right? Yep, so he's our finance and special projects intern. Shai has diving deep into some pilots, and we have him working on policies and
Kind of somewhat of the Lewis County immersion too, kind of getting him familiar with some of the programs that are upcoming, the vacant property stuff, and just looking at the county through a different lens. It's definitely a learning curve to see Lewis County differently.
after Aiden's first week, I said, what's been the most interesting part so far? And he was like, just a lot of businesses that I didn't realize were here. So I think that's the best part about these internships is, yeah, you're learning some skills, but they're learning about Lewis County. So happy to have you guys this summer.
Hopefully we'll convert him like we did Kaylee. Kaylee goes back and we get messages every once in a while of things she sees in Albany that she's seeing through economic development lens.
Great, well, I hope you have a good experience this summer for sure. All right, are we? Everyone else is,
Yeah, I think we're gonna wait for everybody else for the Martinsburg
okay,
pilot.
all right. All right, so the meeting packet was sent out last week. Everyone have a chance to review? Any comments, questions related to the minutes from last meeting? Motion to approve the May 5th meeting minutes. Herb, second. Tom, any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, the finance committee met a few weeks ago.
Yep, we did have a finance committee meeting this month. So we looked at the April financials. I think not a ton of comment on these this month. Besides the fact that SKU did their normal thing and didn't pay for a couple months and then wrote us a sizable check to get completely current with COVID deferrals, current with everything. So not only were they just current with their invoicing, but they caught up from all those deferrals during COVID. So you see a lot bigger numbers on the interest income, lease receivable, and Trinity Ave expenses line, that's the line where their sewer and water and stuff offset. So you see bigger numbers than budget there. And I guess the only other comment on this one is the pilot payments pass-through line is not matching up with budget in the April financials, but since has caught up, and since that's a pass-through line, it did get to zero by the end of the fiscal year, which was yesterday. So that was good. Questions on the profit and loss? On the balance sheet, the biggest notable on that one was the accounts receivable line. Was not much different from last month, but was quite high for what we're used to. There was a lot of solar pilots administrative fees that were sitting in there invoiced but not yet paid. Since then, we're probably down to about 10,000 on the accounts receivable line because we got paid up for 6 projects in May. So that'll look much better for year end and for just getting those paid and closed. Other than that, not a lot of notable. We've had this lingering $2,300 sitting on other current liabilities. That was like a really old payroll liability that wasn't really real. I did work with the accountant this week to get that cleaned up for year end. And then the finance committee also reviewed the monthly expenditures, still some pilot stuff moving through, but nothing really notable there, all within budget. Questions or comments?
Anything? So I think Finance committee was, I don't think had any other discussion on.
We reviewed all of what Cheyenne just went over and didn't really see anything. Problem with, so.
So motion to approve April's financials. Mackenzie, second. Darlene, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, thank you. All right, moving on to I have a number of items here related to a couple ongoing projects and then some internal stuff, so.
Right, so the finance committee reviewed an updated amended application for a project that was brought to us, probably a year ago by New York Solar One on Route 26 in Martinsburg. And the updated application is from Martinsburg CSG LLC. And it updates the project applicant as well as increasing the amount of sales tax exemption that they're looking for by about $19,000, $20,000. Because it's only a small increase, it's less than the 99,000 threshold. We don't have to go through and hold a new public hearing or anything like that. Chris Canada, our counsel with Hudson Thrust, has updated a resolution that we can pass today that accepts the amended application applicant as well as the updated project costs. So Chris, I'm going to hand it over to you with any comments you have on this one.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. That's a great summary. So since this deal hasn't closed, moving forward, the company name will change from New York Solar One to Martinsburg CSG LLC. So that will be reflected in the final documents that get executed by the parties. As Shai mentioned, no need for a new public hearing because the additional financial assistance specified in the amended application is not over $100,000. So you don't have to jump through that hoop. And Exhibit A to the resolution, you'll see this is just updating what was Exhibit A to the original approving resolution to reflect the increase in the project size, the increase in the sales tax exemption, and the number of jobs. So it's just to reflect that, so you have that on your file. But that's about it. This is a simple one. Happy to answer any questions.
Any comment from project applicant on this one? We've got Karen, and Jeff on the phone.
Yeah, thank you to the board for having this morning. No, Chris, I think you summed it up. We acquired this project from New York Solar One last year. Since then, we've made some minor updates, tweaking the design a little bit. Over the past several months, we've gone back to town of Martinsburg, submitted new applications for special use permit, seeker, which I believe the IDA received a notification as an invested stakeholder agency. We received those approvals in March, and reapplying for these tax incentives are kind of our last piece of the puzzle before we can move forward with executing our EPC agreements and moving towards construction later this year. So I appreciate the consideration and happy to answer any questions.
I should say that I'm going to recuse myself from this discussion.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, so yeah, this was reviewed at the finance committee. Pretty well spelled out here. It's a relatively minor changes. Do we need a roll call on this, Chris, or?
We should, Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay. So with that, I think we'll still have enough. So with that, if there's no other questions, we would take a motion to approve. Or second. Darlene seconded. Any discussion? Just note that this was, reviewed by the finance committee and discussed there. So roll call, Goggin excused, Ronald excused, Herb,
Yes.
Tom abstained, Mackenzie,
Yes.
Darlene,
Yes.
Joe, yes.
Very good.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Good
Thanks,
luck.
everyone.
You're welcome to stay on, but you're also welcome to jump off.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Thanks very much.
Brittany and Shy, I don't know if you need me for any other matters this morning. Just checking.
No, we're gonna put the US Light Copenhagen project through our finance committee this month, and we'll look for
July,
a
yeah.
solution for that one in July, which you've already provided, so we're in good
Yep.
shape there. Thank
Okay.
you.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
You too. Take care. Are we,
So we do have an application that the finance committee looked at from the buyer of our Lionsdale property. He's looking for a sales tax exemption. But we are missing just a piece of the documentation. His site plan review and seeker process with the town of Lionsdale. He didn't have the actual minutes from the town or the secret part that they would have filled out. And we kind of need that for our application. We could approve this contingent on getting those documents. But with a sales tax exemption, which is all he's asking for, when we finally do give him that form, it can be retroactive to the date he applied anyway. So for cleanness of all of our documentation, I would prefer if the board chose to table this until our next meeting. So we have that document.
any questions?
Will that affect his timeline at all as far as progress goes?
It shouldn't. He'll just have to work with his vendors a little bit when he cuts POs to make them understand that he will have the sales tax exemption. It just, he doesn't have the paper yet.
All right.
No motion to table.
Do we need officially to do that or?
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
I'll move that we table that
Tom made the motion, a second. Mackenzie, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. All right, so moving on to our some internal policy updates.
Yes. Before we move on to governance committee stuff, does anyone have any questions on the finance committee notes? We also had our pre-audit meeting. So Cheyenne will be jumping into our audit.
It officially starts on the 20th. It's a little different because they're doing it mostly remotely, so it's not like we come in our office with their scanner, which is really nice, actually. It's less disruptive. And most of our stuff is electronic, saved electronically anyway. I'll be getting them the QuickBooks copy, hopefully in a week or two, whenever we get our May financials, and I can reconcile those. Yeah, I think we're in great shape for the audit.
Okay, so moving on to governance committee. The committee reviewed a number of policies, and this is the list of policies as provided or suggested by the ABO and our attorneys at Barclay Damon that we should review and readopt on an annual basis. And before we had them kind of on like a weird schedule. So we're trying to just get them on the annual meeting schedule so that every June we just readopt, make any changes the month before, and then readopt at our June meeting. New policies, the extension of credit policy. This was a policy that was recommended by our auditors that we adopt. Again, some IDA somewhere probably did this, got in trouble, so now we have to have a policy for it. So that is the only new policy that we are adopting today. And we did have a little bit of discussion on our project disposal policy, just, when we sell, and if any of you want to chime in on this, when we look to sell a property, that we add something in our policy that states that, we might add like a first right of refusal on the property or in the contract on the property if they were to resell it and not use it for its original intent. Just making sure that when we sell property, we're not just in it for selling real estate, we're in it for economic development, and that the property stays under a project or a name that's doing good economic development for that community.
The thought process is that, through state requirements, like when we issue a pilot, there's the applicant is committing to either job development or job retention related to those benefits. And if we're working through a property to provide an economic opportunity, that is also looking at job development or retention, then the thought is that if someone buys the property and works on it for a few years, makes improvements, creates some jobs and stuff, and then turns around and sells it, well, that's their own business. That they were true to the mission of developing it. But in the case where if it was purchased with a collaborative approach to develop the property and no investment is made or anything like that, and then the person decides to sell it, it's the question was that just like we have the right to claw back funds from a grant or a pilot that isn't used appropriately or to what they committed to doing, should we have something similar to that? So we're not quite sure how it would work or what's really the avenue for that. Is just there was just been some discussion and recognition that when we engage in a project like this, as Brittany said, if the goal is economic development, it's not just being in the real estate business, so. So it's a work in progress.
And I also brought up a topic related to any sort of technology related policies in terms of protecting from any sort of cyber attack, cyber activity. And after the fact, Brittany shared a couple of policies that are related to the employee handbook that really cover much of what I was asking about. The only one that still kind of wondering about was disaster recovery plans.
Yeah.
And I think you said you were going to kind of keep an eye out for that at the conference and see if there was any.
And with the county, we can, I don't know if the county has a policy that we can adopt as well.
Yeah.
I did meet with Connor.
I'm not
Fields
suggesting we
yesterday.
like go out and find policies to approve, but just, being responsible in.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's important to have that.
I met with Connor Bielsi at the county yesterday, because the county helps us with our IT, but like, it was just kind of like a handshake agreement, like they just kind of do it for us, because we're also using their internet and their phones, so we kind of thought it would be best if we had a contract in place, and it made Connor think about all the other outside agencies that they're helping with IT, that they should also have contracts. So they're gonna come in and do like a full assessment of all of the technology, and if something were to happen to my computer and our email right now, like we don't really have the IT support. So we really need to lock in a contract with the county and have them really kind of take over all of our IT, and just make sure that we have that support if something like that were to happen. So that's something we're aiming for 2023. But through that, he talked a lot about, the cybersecurity. And so I think I can get some information from him or a policy that we can adopt. So for today, we're looking to approve the new extension of credit policy as its own. And then we can approve the rest of the policies as a slate. If there isn't any other changes, and then we'll reapprove the organizational chart as well.
I'll make a motion.
For the extension of credit policy. Yeah. Sure.
All right, so a motion from Darlene, a second. Herb, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries for the extension of credit policy. And so as Brittany said, that the rest of them are all just an annual approval of existing policies without edits. So, and those were provided. And well, they're always available to you, but they were also provided again last week. So, any questions there? Motion. Herb. Second, Mackenzie, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. So then the last thing is the Northern Borders application.
Let's do the organizational
sorry.
chart as separate.
Oh, sorry, I
Sorry.
didn't differentiate that from the list of stuff above.
Sorry.
All right, so so as we've worked through what the organization has, changed into over the last few years with our reorganization and then thinking about the future as well. This is just an update of where we're at this time. And we look to approve it as it stands with the 3 positions currently in place.
I'll make that motion. Then move the org chart.
Motion second by Herb. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, now to the.
So we are working on a grant application to the Northern Border Regional Commission for up to $350,000 for infrastructure work towards the Commerce Park. And this is essentially a formality, the board authorizing us to submit an application to NBRC, and it's something that they require. So again, it's for up to 350,000. We hope to get 350,000. And that application is due tomorrow. So we would look to have a motion and then we'll do a roll call as well.
Make a motion.
Motion by Herb, second by Tom. Any discussion? All right, roll call. Tom,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Herb, Darlene,
Yes.
Joe, yes. Goggin excused, Ron excused. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll get more into Commerce Park stuff in executive session. All right, executive director's report. This month, we were on the road quite a bit, doing some traveling and meeting some partners. We went up to Clarkson University a few weeks ago to meet with the Shipley Center for Innovation. They are the innovation hotspot for New York State. So essentially like an entrepreneur incubator that's housed at Clarkson University. They have a really awesome program where they're working with, their students who have like kind of like hot, like techie, high tech ideas for businesses, and they help them through the whole process. It's actually very similar to our DBA Lewis County program, but they have access to all of their students and resources and a lot of knowledge up there. So it's a good partner for us as we think about some of our businesses that could use things like a market analysis or product development. Mackenzie, I don't know if did you interact much with the Shipley Center when you were there? No. Yeah, it's a really, really cool program and a good partner for us.
And we have partnered with them before.
Yes, yep. So they did the market analysis for Black River Valley Natural when they were trying to figure out what product to start processing, what dairy product they should start with. And their study came back that they should start with butter, flavored butters, because that's where the trends were kind of headed. People are interested in the regular butter and flavored butters rather than milk at the time. However, their milk has taken off quite a bit as well. So good partner for us to have. We also traveled to Cooperstown for the New York State Economic Development Council annual meeting. That was a 3-day conference. This one is this is their annual meeting for the board. I sit on their board of directors, so I was able to attend the annual meeting. Just a great conference for networking and meeting with economic developers from across the state and really learning from one another. Of course, it was beautiful down there, so it was a great time. Looking at our Shift Back to Rural Economic Development Conference, we've been hard at work at marketing, getting sponsorships, getting registrations. We're at over 80.
We're at 90 now.
We're at 90 registered attendees. We have 8, I think we have 8 sponsors. So we're going to close out the sponsors by tomorrow so that we can work on our agendas and our printing for the event. Our agenda is all lined up. All of our speakers are lined up. We're really excited for it. Yeah, hopefully all of you guys can attend. Thank you, Mackenzie, for your platinum sponsorship through BCA.
How many attendees
Our aim was 100. Yep, that was our goal. So I think we'll be,
Get there,
yeah, we'll get there.
people trickling in now and a few extra sponsorships that we're excited about, so.
Yep.
Keep spreading the word for us.
And just some program updates. The Community Economic Development Fund through the LCDC, we just released a press release on that fund and that we are soliciting applications for committee members. We have one application already who would be great for that committee. Again, this is the committee that's going to kind of drive the future of the fund. There was a planning committee through the LCDC that kind of laid out the framework of what the program could look like. Again, this is approximately $150,000 per year that we'll be able to grant out to businesses, schools, and community groups and or municipalities as well. So if you know of anyone that's interested in being on that, send them our way. And then our Launch LC grant competition, all of our original applicants have completed the entrepreneurial training course. So we have the deadline for the final application is June 17th. And hopefully we'll have grant awards by July 1st. So we're just waiting on some of those final applications. Any questions?
Do you have any updates on the negotiation between Naturally Lewis and the LCDC there on the purchase?
You mean
of the mill site?
Black River Valley Natural? Ongoing. It's moving, but it's moving steady.
Haven't got to the finish line.
No, we haven't. Reviewing contracts at this time. Yep. Anything else on that?
I should make a comment on another meeting that the supervisors had a meeting with the Tug Hill. And probably the main discussion point was this lawsuit about pilots.
Oh, that's
I
been
think if
tabled.
it's- Okay, good.
Yep.
Because I think that was the main thing that was involved there is that I think you could say that at least 99% of Lewis County supervisors are not very gung ho with doing away with pilots.
Right. Was that the Tug Hill Commission local government?
Yeah, they had a meeting of, basically, it didn't have all of Lewis County supervisors, but it had the supervisors that are involved in Tug Hill. So
Okay.
there's some Oswego and some Jefferson.
Oh, okay.
But that was probably the main discussion point, is that they were very much against that.
Right. Yeah, we received an email from Joan McNichol, the county attorney, probably about a month before our last board meeting, that it was tabled at the state
Well,
level.
right, it's not,
Stay.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
a stay in place, so it's not gone altogether, but it's not being, it wasn't, they didn't have to implement it for this tax year.
Mhm.
The wording of that was interesting. You got a restraining order. It's a thing with laws.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, thanks for that, Tom. Any other,
Oh, one more thing I wanted to add. So we talked a little bit before, but Cheyenne and Jen and I participated in the Tour de Lewis, a very short leg of the bike ride from we went Oswegatchie to Krogan. Yeah, Eau de Crow.
That was a good one, it's downhill.
Exactly.
That's why we picked that leg.
Mostly downhill time.
But just wanted to backtrack. That event was actually created at a roundtable event that we co-hosted with the chamber about a little over a year ago. Cheyenne was able to put all the bike people together at one table, and that's where that event started. So the event was awesome. I mean, there were bikers from all over the state, and there was even a group that biked from Watertown to Oswegatchie the morning before as like their warm up, and then
The morning.
did Oswegatchie to Osceola as like their main ride.
Little bikers.
Well, there was even a guy I know who biked from Lavo, Oswegatchie, and then did the ride. So that, I mean, that's what, 80, 90 miles.
Yeah. It was an awesome event, and Dustin Height hosted the after party at Osceola, the ski resort, and he had a band, they had food. It was just really well organized, and the committee received a lot of great feedback from the riders. So I think it's gonna continue to happen, and it's gonna be a great event for Lewis County. But again, just wanted to share that that event started, the idea was created at a roundtable event that we hosted. Which goes to show the importance of just bringing people together and some of the great ideas that come out of those events.
John and Caroline sat in the front yard and cheered him on. as they
Really?
went
Yeah.
That's fun.
They probably needed it right
Yeah.
there, right after that hill.
by. All
Yeah,
right,
we had
cool.
some people cheering on Belfort Road, bike faster. No. Not biking any faster. All right, under correspondence, just wanted to share this report from the ABO. So we had our first review of a solar project. In the ABO, they reviewed 11 different projects in 11 different counties. They looked at our first solar project, or US Light Energy Denmark project, and luckily everyone, no project was perfect, no IDA was perfect. There were some things that we did right and others didn't, and vice versa. But it's really a good report for us to learn from. It tells us what the ABO is really looking for when it comes to compliance and reporting of these projects. So it's a pretty long report. Feel free to look through it if you have some time. It's just a good overview of what the ABO is looking for with these projects and why we have to have so many different resolutions and files and paperwork regarding renewable energy.
And some of the things that they were looking for that we didn't have with that initial project, we've already implemented and are well in compliance with, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was-
That one.
That was a good comment. It was that was one of the very early ones, or maybe
The
even
first
the first one,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, and so we were very new to solar and our solar projects, and yeah, we've learned a lot since then.
All right. All right, so any other questions on that? Moving on to the
Okay.
budget projections.
So, as you all know, we've been working through this new 501c3 concept, and Cheyenne has started a budget for that organization, and the funds coming in from the IDA, the LCDC, the county, tourism, chamber, membership. But this is something that we wanted this board to look at, more specific to the IDA budget. And there's not any red numbers, but,
There are. You can't see them yet.
oh, okay. Oh, there they are. Yeah, so if you look at that budget, in 5 years from now, the IDA is in the red, and so whether we stay under the IDA or we're under the 501c3, if we do nothing else, this is what our budget looks like. So we just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what that means for the organization. And we'll go into a little bit more detail.
Scroll down a little bit to the IDA. The IDA is really the driver and the whole financial scenario for Naturally Lewis. because we take in more money than the other organizations through pilot administrative fees, at least right now. And all of the budgets I built pretty conservatively based on if we don't do anything. LCDC doesn't do anything differently. The IDA doesn't do anything differently. So obviously that's not the stance any of those organizations are taking. We'll be looking to do different things, but we know that these wind pilot administrative fees, that's the end of Roaring Brook. Number 3 wind, as those dry up over the next couple of years. I've got zeros out here. This doesn't show anything for the solar projects we know that are gonna at least continue to trickle through. We know there's a couple big ones on the horizon that could get built that could have similar administrative fees. None of that is in this model, so I don't want these numbers to scare anybody. But if we entered into a service contract with actually Lewis 501c3, the IDA would be the main contributor, given that they have the most administrative things to do. And I've got most of those admin fees, as well as some of the ongoing pilots that we've received admin for in the past, since that admin would be kind of sucked up into the 501c3. I've got 90% of that kind of pulled up and paid in as a contract fee. So that's obviously open for negotiation. I showed you kind of that distribution a month or two ago of the existing pilots that we have and the administrative fees that we've collected for those. And if we spread them out through the 15, 20, 30 years of each of those pilots, what that means we should be drawing out for admin each year. Right now, those monies sit in our bank account. So if we were to just draw out the amount that we're supposed to be using for admin that year, what that would look like, that's where I pulled the numbers to get to here. It's about $140,000 for the next stretch, 9 years. And you'll see the net revenue is negative all the way across if we do that, because we are pulling money out of Naturally Lewis or out of the IDA that's administrative money. And that's why I put the cash on hand line down here. Obviously, that would draw down as we draw some of those admin fees that we've accumulated in our bank account out. So all that being said, the IDA will need to keep a small portion of pilot fees. Lease to own income will stay under the IDA because they're the mechanism to be able to do that, the sales tax exemptions, things like that. So that's a line that the IDA can grow to cover audit, legal operations. That'll kind of be, these will be the only lines of expenses that will kind of stay in the IDA. There'll be some a required audit, some legal, probably diminishing in the legal side because all the pilot legal is covered by the applicant. So that line will go down a bit. Operations maybe will go down, but that's not a big number. But that's stuff we can cover as long as we're doing other things. And this, like I said, this model doesn't show us doing a whole lot more. But if you go back up, make it a little bit smaller so we can see. A little bit more, 75% maybe. Yeah, so this is where the pilot fees kind of drop off a bit. And we've Naturally Lewis has got to establish some revenue streams if we want to keep supporting properties, projects, and programming under the 501c3. And I think that's where our play is. Obviously, the IDA needs to keep doing IDA things, but that's where the play is in order to fund properties, projects, programming. We need to establish other revenue streams, and some of that's going to be grants. That's going to be just getting investors and sponsors and things like that. But that's the work that needs to be done. Is those two offsets. Questions? Anybody scared of the red numbers?
Can you elaborate on investors? What does that look like? the line item below the revenue streams to be established.
Right, so as we incorporate kind of the Chamber of Commerce membership model into the IDA, we've got that up here. It's about $35,000 right now. I think we can grow that faster than we show here, but we're being conservative again. There are businesses, people in the community, entities that don't necessarily need a membership, but might be willing to invest at some level. So I've got that as a pretty small number right now, but I think that's an avenue that we've talked about exploring a bit, and I think we can explore more.
We've been working a lot on that membership piece, like what does that look like? And of course, we have all laid out to like, what are the benefits that small businesses are getting? And it's really a merge of the best of the chamber and the best of economic development. But there's also this little section, like you become a member investor, you're also investing in economic and community development for your community, like Lewis County Hospital, you could invest X amount of dollars and we're helping to build and grow this community, which in turn is going to help your workforce and help attract people to live here and work here. So it's like getting companies and people to invest in looking at the bigger picture, not just I'm a small business and I'm going to get this perk, I'm going to get discounts at Naturally Lewis events. Like it's bigger than that. And we want to tell that story. Questions?
And I would just offer, I mean, this is, if you look even at the staffing line, I mean, we've built this, I mean, quite frankly, going back to when Brittany was originally hired, it was kind of a, if we build it, they will come type approach. Like, we were trying to move from an organization that was reactive to being proactive. And even then, I mean, we've had the good fortune of the last 5 years or so of having this influx of pilot money, which has made things relatively stable and allowed us to be, fairly aggressive in investing in economic development, both from a human capital standpoint and from a project standpoint. And we hope to continue to do that. And, we want to continue to be proactive, not reactive. And that's what this model is looking at. When you look at, obviously, because we're bringing in like the chamber, then that, that becomes that person, we have a director of the chamber and that gets folded into the 501c3. But this is all, as you can see, as we get out here and to carry these expenses, the ability to be proactive is contingent on, something we've been talking about the last, especially more the last 6 months, of what we're doing to both enhance economic development, but also be self-sustaining, right? And so this idea is really looking to continue to be proactive with this new structure, but it also highlights that in order to continue to accomplish that and be more aggressive, our projects need to balance advancing economic development with providing some revenue streams to support this. And we know we read things, we see things, we know from personal experience that the staff is critical, and there's a lot of what we can do is just have the expertise in place to support these businesses, right? They're not always looking for a pilot or a grant or some incentive, but if just being able to afford to have the staff in place that can commit the time to just helping people and not turning people away because we're understaffed, is where, where we've gotten to and where we need to continue to strive to make sure we can afford to stay at.
Yeah, and from an IDA perspective, having the structure and being proactive and having staff and doing the programs, that's going to help the IDA. Like those businesses in the future are going to come to us for pilots because they're building new buildings, right? So That's a great point. It's just being very proactive and yeah, right now the IDA is in the red. But that's if we're at one staff member and we can't do the outreach that we've been doing for the past couple of years. So it will help the IDA, but again, it's just good to point out that if we do nothing else, that is what the budget looks like.
I think it's really good to look at this. But I guess my opinion is that it isn't quite as dire as what you've got there, because I see some big solar things coming yet.
Yeah, I don't expect this to be the case at all, but I always like to project if, as a starting point, if we did nothing.
Right.
But then if we do the work that we continue to do, and then we'll get more efficient as we kind of specialize a little bit.
Essentially, to your point, it's the expense side is us being proactive and aggressive, and the revenue side is us being reactive and not doing anything, right? So it is kind of
Yeah.
the worst case.
I mean, I
scenario.
don't disagree with the concept, because I think someday we're gonna run out of windmills and solar. So.
Yeah.
And that's where even like,
Which is, yeah,
go ahead.
that's where the idea of having these two things offset and having those revenue streams really pumping is going to be important over the next, 4 or 5 years, especially as we get to that point where the wind money, at least, I mean, maybe the last wind project that you're will get built, but it's motivation for me. That's why I do the worst case scenario.
It'll be a challenge. Shy's gonna tell us where the gaps are and where they need to be filled, and then, all right, have to fill those gaps. Let's figure it out. Thank you, Shy. Anything else on budget?
All right, thank you. And if there's no questions there, then, so we have on here an executive session, and this is related to contract negotiations with the Commerce Park. So if there's the willingness, we'd look for a motion to go into executive session to discuss those negotiations. A motion by Herb, second. Darlene, any discussion? Make a note. Yeah, we can, Mackenzie can recuse from the conversation. And yeah, so probably we can step out and we'll take a vote. And, so all in favor of going into executive session? All right.
Welcome Mackenzie back.
Yeah. All right, so we're out of executive session, back in the regular meeting. No official actions are being taken today from the executive session. Staff will continue to look up some materials and research the subject and work with the landowner on future prospects. So with that, if there's nothing else, we'll look to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Darlene, second by Tom, all in favor? All right, the June meeting is closed.
Don't leave yet. We have our annual meeting.